Welcome back to Plead Your Case, WCTV's only national sports debate show. I'm Anthony DiFilippo, and I'll be your host for today's episode. We have a ton to debate today. Our first topic is the Pro Bowl, which is changing from full contact to a flag football game. Albert Pujols hit his 700th home run this past week, so we'll talk about who truly is the best 700 home run hitter in MLB history. We'll also be talking about the NHL, whose preseason just started. We'll take a look into some Stanley Cup contenders, and then also which teams have the best chance to go from the bottom of the league to the top. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Plead Your Case. You're watching Plead Your Case. I'm your host, Anthony DiFilippo. The first topic that we're going to talk about is the NFL, and more specifically the announcement that they'll be changing their Pro Bowl to a flag football game. I'm joined by my two panelists, Ethan Spozarski and Dean Shazer. And Ethan, I'm going to throw it to you first. What do you think?
Well, coming out of the gate, I was a little iffy on what they're planning on doing coming into this Pro Bowl season. A lot recently, there hasn't been a lot of action. There hasn't been a lot of fun or excitement as it is. And it is very much a popularity contest on who gets to go to the Pro Bowl. So I think it's going to be a nice little change in things to see how people think the skills competition is, see who has the best skills, and then a for fun flag football game. Because at the end of the day, no one really does try at this Pro Bowl game. Guys are just out there to compete, see fans, and again, it is a popularity contest. On top of that, viewership over the past few years has gone down. NBC started covering the Pro Bowl in 2013 they had over 12 million viewers. Ever since it went to ESPN, it hasn't hit over 9 million viewers. So I think this is going to be a good little change, excite things up for the rules, and I think it's going to help viewership and the NFL overall.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's going to be a little bit stale. It was a little bit stale before. I think this will make it a little bit more exciting. Dean, your thoughts?
See, I think the exact opposite, actually, if I'm going to be honest with you fellas. I think the point of football is to hit people. We're not going there to try to avoid – we're going to avoid tackles, but avoid tackles with no pads on, especially at the highest level there is. While these guys are getting paid millions of dollars year in and year out to showcase their talents and what they're capable of, I think that needs to be displayed at the Pro Bowl. These guys want to compete against the highest level athletes. That's why they're in this league. They want to see every single bit of talent across the league. And you're not going to play all 32 teams every year, which means you're not going to see all that talent every year. But you know where you see that talent is the Pro Bowl, and you want to show your skills against those guys in the Pro Bowl.
Well, Dean, you do, of course, spread a lot of knowledge there. However, when it comes to flag football, it takes out the tackling aspect of it, which I can admit. I love nothing more than some hard hits as much as the next guy. However, this is still a skills competition. There's plenty of times for guys to prove off their talent. On top of that, a lot of guys can still play football really, really well when there's flags tied around their waist. I know last year, again, there was a lot of controversy going into it. There was a lot of stuff coming out of it that wasn't that good for the league. So I'm interested to see maybe the change up of things, because clearly things weren't going well in that part of the business side of it. And to remember, the NFL is a business. They do need to continue to make money. They need to continue to think what's the best way we can make this the best league in the entire world. And I think that's what they're doing right now with this little change up.
Look, Dean, I know you want to see a lot of tackling and things like that, but the fact of the matter is the players don't really want to go into the game for contact and to possibly even get injuries. Flag football will bring change, enjoyment to the game, in my opinion. I think sort of the trend that's happening between all of the major sports leagues right now is the kids aspect of it and trying to get kids more involved in it. Over the years, they've put games on Nickelodeon with Slime. They've done NFL 60, where they encourage people to really get out and exercise 60 minutes each day. So I really think with that aspect of it, flag football will be more exciting for kids to watch.
Well, I understand that you guys think that, but like you said, you made that point that ultimately the NFL is a business. And what's the point of a business? It's to make as much money as possible for that business. And how do you do that? You bring pads, you put the highest level athletes together in a football game, the Pro Bowl, which is what it has been for years. And let me point out something. We all know the infamous Sean Taylor hit in the 2007 Pro Bowl when he came down and on that punter. So those views that year were some of the historically low views in the Pro Bowl. That next year, 4 million more viewers. And then the trend just continued on. For the next 6 years, views kept going up. 2009, 2 years later, we have 12.3 million, and then at its highest peak in 2011, 13.4 million people tuned in to watch the Pro Bowl just 4 years after these hard hits kept taking place in the Pro Bowl, which is how you make money, which is views, advertisements. People want to watch this stuff, not a bunch of silly little 6-year-olds, what it's going to look like with flags around their waist on a football field.
Understandably so. And again, the hit heard around the world. I can tell you it's one of my favorite NFL clips of all time. Sean Taylor was one of the greatest, if not, well, I'm not going to be Colin Rhodes. I'm not going to say one of the greatest, but he was one of the greatest safeties to play the game. He was so much fun to watch. He was an entertaining personality on top of that. But again, I think that you got to relate to the market you're extending out to. Nickelodeon's getting divisional playoff games, Disney XD's getting the Pro Bowl this year. They average about 163,000 people watching. I understand that's not a lot compared to a lot of the numbers we have here when we're talking about national brands showing off sports, but that is a lot. They're making sure they get out to that younger audience, and I think, again, the best way to do that is by bringing in the aspect of football that more kids are participating in, because a lot of parents as well, think about it, a lot of parents, including my own, very not into the physical aspect of things. I did play flag football. It was actually a lot of fun. Changed up things a little bit. So, again, I do understand where you're coming from, and I again, love the hard hits, but I think this is the right business decision as well as just the best decision overall for the NFL.
Yeah, I agree with both you guys. I see where both you guys are coming from. Ethan, I agree with you more so. Unfortunately, that is all of the time that we have for that segment. We'll be back with greatest 700 home run hitter right here on Plead Your Case.
Welcome back to Plead Your Case. We've got NFL Pick-a-Mania segment, King of the Mountain style, and the King is back. Spencer has won 2 weeks in a row, but we've got Joe Veneziale here on the panel to try and dethrone him in Week 4 of the NFL season. We're going to get right into it, to the Thursday night game. We've got a good one, the Dolphins at the Bengals, and we're going to keep starting with Spencer for each of these games. So Spencer, Dolphins, Bengals, Thursday night.
Brock, Joe, thank you. I'm going to take my crown. I'm going to put it on Joe. I'm on the win streak. I'm going to take the Dolphins. I want Bama quarterback Tua, roll tide, baby. Give me the elite duo of Waddle and Hill. I think the Dolphins easily win.
I can't wait for Spencer to not be back next week. I definitely have the Dolphins as well. It's a safe pick. Tua played fantastic on Sunday against the Bills. Very hard-fought team. Yeah, I got the Dolphins in this one.
And then Sunday morning, we've got a London game. Vikings versus the Saints. Who you've got, Spencer?
I got the Vikings. The Saints sold me last week. I went 6-1 on Micah Sleeva's and I's different picks. I took the Saints last week. They lost. I'm taking the Vikings this week. Give me Jay Jutta and Captain Kirk.
I'm going to disagree with you, Spencer. I'm taking the Saints this week. Jameis Winston is back. He's going to ball out once again, and I think Saints defense is very underrated this year. I'm taking the Saints in London in the morning.
All right, the next game I have here, Commanders at the Cowboys. Who do you have, Spencer?
Brock, this was kind of a tough one. Both teams have been playing kind of iffy. At the end of it, I'm going to go Cowboys. They've been playing really well without Dak, and I think they can do it against the Commanders. Carson Wentz really hasn't been playing too well.
See, I disagree with you on that. I think Carson Wentz is playing very well. I think the Commanders' defense is also very good. Chase Young's playing out of his mind this year so far. I'm taking the Commanders. Cowboys have also not been playing well.
Browns at Falcons. Do I even have to ask you, Spencer?
You don't, Brock, but you see the jersey. This is the week 3. Josh Cribbs. Give me Chubb. I'm going to keep saying it. Give me Chubb. The elite running back duo of those two propelled it over the Steelers fans and the Steelers team. You know, the Steelers fans were hiding last Friday. I couldn't find a single one on campus, guys. After that loss, no one was out. It was just me walking around in my Browns jersey. That being said, give me the Browns this week against the Falcons.
As much as it pains me to say this, I'm going to have to take the Browns over the Falcons. I don't want to hear Spencer's soapbox anymore, but nonetheless, Falcons are a really bad team. And yeah, they're going to feed Chubb all day. I got the Browns.
Next game on the slate, we've got a couple of 1-2 teams going at the Seahawks at the Lions.
Brock, the Lions should have won last week. They just choked the bag at the end of the game against the Vikings. But that being said, though, I'm going to take the Lions. The Seahawks looked terrible on Sunday Night Football against the Broncos. Easy win for the Lions here.
I'm also taking the Lions. The Lions are looking very well this year. Jared Goff playing out of his mind. Jamal Williams taking more snaps than DeAndre Swift. In that manner, he's playing out of his mind as well. I'm taking the Lions.
And talent-wise, you probably wouldn't think this, but a couple of 2-1 teams we're moving on to. Bears at the Giants, Spencer.
Coming into the show, guys, I didn't have a first surefire answer. I'm going to go risky. You know what? I've been on 3 weeks in a row now. I'm going to take the Bears. I like how good the OSU quarterback of Justin Fields has been playing, and their run game last week was really, really well. I'm going to take the Bears.
Spencer, that was a very bad pick. The Bears are awful this year. I'm definitely taking the Giants. Giants played very well with Saquon back in full form. I'm taking the Giants.
All right, guys, our next game, we've got the Titans in a divisional matchup taking on the 1-1 Indianapolis Colts. Who do you have, Spencer?
Well, this is a great game, Brock. Battle of the running backs. I predicted King Henry going off last week, and he did, but I'm going to switch it up. I think Jonathan Taylor, JT, is going to come back to his normal self this week. I'm going to take the Colts, an easy win over the Titans.
See, I disagree with you, Spencer. I think King Henry is back full form. I think the Titans got this one handily in Indianapolis.
And one of the best games of the week, in my opinion, is this next one. Jaguars at the 3-0 Eagles. Only 2 undefeated teams left. The Eagles are one of them. Guys, the Jaguars knock them off?
I've heard you both say this is the game of the week. I completely disagree. I think the Bills-Ravens game is the game of the week. I think Jalen Hurts, the Alabama cornerback, and the Eagles are going to come in and destroy the Jags. They look very well. I think they're Super Bowl contenders without a doubt. The Jalen Hurts offense on the Eagles looks outstanding.
Keep sleeping. Keep sleeping. I'll tell you that. Jacksonville is back. I'm definitely taking Jacksonville in the game of the week. This game is definitely going to be 45 apiece by halftime, if even that. Trevor Lawrence is playing out of his mind as well. Them taking a big win over the Colts this season, I say Jacksonville got this one in the bag.
And the next one, we've got the hometown Steelers are going to be at Acrisure against the Jets this week. Spencer.
Well, as Joe stated for the Browns, it pains me to do this, but I'm going to play on the more safe side. I'm going to take the Steelers. Believe me, I want the Jets to win, but I think, unfortunately, the Steelers are going to beat the Jets. There's talk about Zach Wilson returning. We don't really know the QB situation. I think Steelers win easily here.
Unfortunately, as much as I'm happy to say this, I have the Steelers taking them over the Jets. I can't really say much to Spencer as for the loss last week, but nonetheless, definitely Steelers are back at home. I see Mitchell Trubisky having a comeback game in this one, and the Jets just not that good.
And one of the other best games of the week, I'm looking at 3. This is the second one we've hit. The Bills at the Ravens, Spencer.
Guys, this is the game of the week. The Jaguars-Eagles is not the game of the week. It's a good game, but this is the game of the week. Josh Allen is going to come into Baltimore with a vengeance. He lost last week. He was very frustrated. There was helmet slamming, the offensive coordinator for the Bills. We all seen the video of him smashing things. Give me the Bills and Josh Allen easily over the Ravens this week.
No, I agree with you, Spencer. Josh Allen definitely on a comeback game this week. Tough loss against Miami, and I definitely got the Bills in that one.
The Chargers, who have gotten off to a slow start as to their expectations, they're 1-2, taking on the 0-2-1 Texans.
The Texans are a little weird this year, but nonetheless, I think even though Justin Herbert had a little bit of a setback next week, I think he's going to have another week of rest. I'm hoping, they really sold me last week, but I'm going to easily take the Chargers here, no matter if they're in Houston or not. I think even if they're in Houston, they're going to take the win.
I'm also taking the Chargers. Chargers defense looking very well this year, and especially with Justin Herbert's setback. Their offense has been lackluster, but I think defense carries them this one.
We've got the Cardinals and the Panthers, couple more 1-2 teams. Who you got, Spencer?
Well, if you guys don't know this by now, I cannot stand Baker Mayfield. So this is an easy pick for me. I'm taking the Cardinals. Kyler Murray has looked real well this season. I think this is an easy win going into Carolina.
Yeah, I also think this is an easy win going to Carolina. Kyler Murray playing outstanding this season. I'm definitely taking the Cardinals handily here.
Pretty solid game here, I think. You got the Patriots, they're 1-2, but with Bill Belichick, you never really know, at the 2-1 Packers.
I was going to think this was a good game, Brock, but I don't know if Mac Jones is going to play, and if he doesn't play, I just cannot see this Patriots team beating the Packers. I'm going go Pack, go again. Aaron Rodgers, the veteran quarterback, over the young quarterback if Jones plays, but I don't think he will. I'm taking the Packers.
Absolutely. Aaron Rodgers definitely having a vengeance game after playing Brady and the Bucs. Yeah, definitely Packers on this one. Packers defense also looking very well. I love defense, if you guys couldn't tell, and these Packers defense is doing very spectacular this season.
Broncos country is riding into Las Vegas to take on the only 0-3 team. Who you got?
Well, Brock, I don't want to say too much. Our producer is back there, and I'd like to be on the show next week. So I'm not going to say too much on the record, but I don't think the Broncos can do this. I think I'm going to take the Raiders. I had Devontae Adams in fantasy. I think he's going for 3 touchdowns on this Raiders defense. Give me the Raiders. They're getting their first win this week.
I also have Devontae Adams on my fantasy team, and I hope he does well. But I do have Broncos country riding in the Raider town. I do not see the Raiders winning any games before Week 7. Raiders stink.
This is the third of the games that I was looking at for perhaps the game of the week. It's Sunday Night Football. Chiefs at Bucks.
Well, it's a battle of the quarterbacks. The veteran quarterback and Tom Brady, arguably the best of all time, and now the young QB, who's arguably the best right now with Josh Allen. But I think it's the young QB and Patrick Mahomes. I think this is an easy win for the Chiefs. Mike Evans is back, but the Buccaneers, and Tom Brady did not look too well last week.
Rematch of the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. Yeah, I don't see the Chiefs losing this one. Patrick Mahomes looking very spectacular last week. Yeah, I got Patrick Mahomes.
And then we're finishing it off, fellas. We've got the 2-1 Rams going to San Francisco to take on the 1-2 49ers.
This was an odd game. I have Debo on my fantasy team, but it just looks like Debo does I think Jimmy Garoppolo has forgot Debo has existed. He barely gets any touches. He gets no touchdown attempts. With that being said, I'm going to take last year's Super Bowl champs. I think this is an easy win for Stafford and Kupp. Give me the Rams.
I agree. No, I definitely have the Rams as well.
All right, guys. Thanks for your input. That was the NFL mini segment here on Plead Your Case. Stay tuned.
You're watching WCTV, where we aim to bring you the best local coverage of what you care about most. Everything from local businesses to hometown sports and the latest weather. We're keeping up to date with what you need to know about issues that affect our campus and our community. We're telling the stories that matter, celebrating our past, our future, and our potential. So tune in for all the latest buzz right here on WCTV Channel 14, Waynesburg.
Welcome back to Plead Your Case. For the second topic today, we're talking about the GOAT 700 home run hitter edition. With Albert Pujols hitting his 700th home run on September 23rd, that made him the 4th player ever to hit that many in his career. He joined Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, and Barry Bonds. So, Dean, I'm going to throw it to you first on this one. Who do you think is the best 700 home run hitter of all time?
Well, it was the first name you said. It was Baby Ruth. I mean, this guy, he has a candy bar named after him. And when you call your shot in baseball, Babe Ruth is the originator of that. Call your shot, baby, because that's exactly what he did. I'm going to read you some of his infamous stats. 714 home runs, like he said, 3rd all-time, 2nd all-time in RBIs with over 2,200, 1st in OPS with over an 1,100 OPS, and a 690 slugging percentage in his career. And I didn't even mention, he finished with a 342 batting average. That is unheard of in 2 months, in a 2-month stretch of baseball, let alone a dude's entire career, 10-plus years in the MLB, doing what he does. 8,400 at-bats. This guy, longevity is key. And he nailed longevity. He's done it for years in the 20s. He was an animal on the Red Sox and the Yankees. And I just don't think there's any competing. He pitched in the World Series. He can hit home runs and pitch. It's unworldly. He's Shohei Ohtani 100 years ago. Guys didn't know what Shohei was, but they saw Baby Ruth, so they had a glimpse of it. And I don't know how you compete, Spose. I just want to hear your side real quick because I'm ready.
Well, I'm gonna have to disagree with you there. Is there no doubt in my mind that Babe Ruth set a trend for all of baseball? 100%. If you watch The Sandlot, which you should have if you're watching this show, they mentioned Babe Ruth billions of times. The Great Bambini. It's simple. Babe Ruth set the trend, but he's not the greatest 400 hitter of all time. As you mentioned, they were playing starting in the 1920s. In that league, how many guys do you think were competing at that level with that amount of talent? I'm going to have to go with a fat 0. I don't really think until later into the league's creation that there was actual talent being brought up against him. A lot of, as we mentioned before, businessmen were playing in this league, so I'm going to keep it real. If you would have asked me who's the greatest 400 hitter and you think I'd say Barry Bonds, you'd also be incorrect. And I'm not saying because Barry Bonds isn't talented. Again, another tremendous athlete, very talented, but the guy I'm naming, he didn't need to juice up at all. He didn't need to get any help ever. Albert Pujols, baby. I get it. He's the modern version. We don't see eye to eye on this one. I'm sure that goes for everybody whenever Anthony comes out with his pick, but I'm going to be real. Albert Pujols right now to me is the best 700 hitter, and it's not just because of the stats. He has over 33 hits. He has 2,208 RBIs. And on top of that, he's without one of the doubt one of the most popular and most loved baseball players in our modern era. Nobody, if you can tell me at least 10 people that dislike Albert Pujols, I'll give you my job right now. I don't see that. He's just very popular. He gets out to the people. It's how it works. Barry Bonds, he was liked, and then they found out he was doing some things to help advance his play. Wasn't helping. Babe Ruth, different era, hard to compare. So that's what I'm going to put on that. That's my little speech. So Anthony, I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, Dean, I'm going to start with you. We said greatest 700 home run hitter, not greatest 700 home run pitcher. I don't care about his pitching stats, quite frankly. Ethan, when you talk about who's the best 700 home run hitter, I don't care if they're the most liked in the entire league. It doesn't matter to me. Barry Bonds is absolutely the best 700 home run hitter in MLB history. Pre-juicing, he had 411 home runs, which was second. He had 1,216 RBIs, which was also second. 411 on-base percentage and 99.2 wins above average or WAR, which is wins above replacement. That's the highest by over 30. Not to mention, he also had 3 MVPs and 7 All-Stars in that same exact period of time, and that was 13 seasons pre-juicing. If you look after, 762 career home runs for Barry Bonds, which was first, 2,935 hits, which is right near the top. He was walked 688 times intentionally, which is 350 more times than Albert Pujols was his entire career. So I think when you think about who is the best 700 home run hitter, you have to look at who was the most feared on the field, and that was definitely Barry Bonds, in my opinion.
Babe Ruth, though. Listen to 7-time World Series champion. I get that it's a team accomplishment, but like I said, 700 home runs doesn't come by accident. You don't swing a bat and the ball goes over the fence. It doesn't require any skill. It requires the most skill in any sport. It's the hardest thing to do in any sport. And all these guys are great, but Baby Ruth, I don't care whether you think it matters if he's a pitcher or a hitter or not. He did both. He was a Swiss Army knife. He was the first dude in MLB history to play 4 different positions in a single World Series. He played left, he played right, he played pitcher, and he played first base. He's a versatile dude. 700 home runs. I just need to keep saying it because, all these guys, it's a great feat. But 2-time All-Star, first batter to 500 homers, first batter to hit 60 homers as it just got beat by another Yankee, Aaron Judge. But he was the first to hit 50 homers too. No one competed in this guy. And I don't care if you think it was a different era. We all say Wayne Gretzky's the greatest hockey player, but you put him in this era, who knows what happens. Just like we can't change history. Babe Ruth is just he was a man amongst men. Him and Lou Gehrig, like that dynamic duo on that Yankees team, it couldn't be stopped. And his numbers retired for a reason. He was an inaugural vote in the Hall of Fame. He's just, like I said one more time, he's sweet like chocolate. Give me a Baby Ruth candy bar to end this conversation because he's the greatest. And I wish I had because I'd pull it out right now and eat it.
Well, I'll start off with Dean first. Dean, like our lovely host said, I don't care what other position he played. We're talking about batting. This is offense. Babe Ruth, without a question, again, trend setter. Great guy. He called his shot. He hit it there a few times. Pretty cool. Well, we're talking about more modern era now. Times have changed. The league has changed. People have gotten better than that. I'm not saying his legacy changes at all. Just don't think he's the best 700 batter.
But like I said, you can't go back in history and change it. So why are you taking away from greatness?
Because greatness has changed since when it started. And speaking of which, to you over here, if we talk about players and their skill, on the field. But let's think about it. Again, life's a popularity contest at this case. With fans like who's playing, they're going to root for, they're going to support. So if he comes out and fans support Pujols more than they supported Bonds, that's going to help his situation. You never know. And on top of that, guess what? You were talking about his pre-juice stats. Pujols didn't need any juice. He got all those stats without any help. So I'm going to say again, Pujols arguably is the best person on this list. Arguably. Because there are fair points to all sides. But Pujols didn't need any juice to get where he was. Yeah, with juice, he hit another 300-some home runs to get to what? How many home runs did he hit? 762? Guess what? If that's with the juice, how well do you think he would have done without it before hitting 400? I just think Pujols, while he is a 3-time World Series champion, he's not a 7-time champion. I just think Pujols with 11-time All-Star, 2 World Series. He's won 3 MVPs. He's won a batting title. I mean, list goes on and on. I think Pujols just is a dynamic guy who you can put him in any different with many different teams. Bonds only played for 2 teams. Ruth only played for 2 teams. Pujols has played for what, 3? 3 teams?
Yep, 3 teams.
3 teams. I just think Pujols in this argument has the best supporting case compared to all 4 guys. And I do want to make mention to Hank, as they call him now, Aaron. Of course, he does have the most home runs, or second most home runs, in MLB history. But again, different time, hard to compare to now. Things have modernized, things have changed. I just think Pujols is the best support in order to be considered the best 700 hitter.
Yeah, I mean, good arguments all around. But unfortunately, that is all the time we have for this particular segment. We will be back with more. We'll be talking about some hockey here on Plead Your Case. Back here on Plead Your Case, and for our final segment, we'll be talking about some hockey. With the preseason just starting, we'll be talking about Stanley Cup contenders and the team that could go from worst to first. So, Dean, I want to start with you again on this one. Who do you think is your Stanley Cup contender for the season?
And like you said worst to first. I'm going first and staying first, and it's going to be the Colorado Avalanche once again. Only 2 points away from winning that President's Trophy, going to the playoffs, but it meant nothing to them. Florida took it from their hands. They took it as motivation. They got mad, they got hungry, and they went on a 16-4 playoff run, sweeping 2 teams in those playoffs, being Nashville and the big firepower with Leon and McDavid, Edmonton in the Western Conference Finals to move on. They ended up beating the Lightning, who was the prior powerhouse in the NHL, with back-to-back Stanley Cup champs, trying to go on a three-peat, but they couldn't, and flip. I think that's your team this year, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yep, I've got the team who played the Colorado Avalanche in the Stanley Cup Final last year. The Tampa Bay Lightning, of course, coming back 4th year in a row. I think they get it done again this year, or get really close at least. Listen, any team with Vasilevsky, Stamkos, a healthy Nikita Kucherov, only played 47 games for them last year. I believe that is the team that could win it all every single year. Not to mention John Cooper is their coach. He's been there a couple times. He knows how it goes. They have a really solid bottom 6. They have good depth up and down the lineup. I really like Nick Paul there on their second or third line center, wherever they decide to slot him in. Anthony Cirelli, he'll be back by the end of the season, hopefully, depending on how everything goes with his injury. So, yeah, I like the Tampa Bay Lightning to win this year. What about you, Ethan?
Gentlemen, for the first time in this entire broadcast that we've been working, I'm going to have to side with Dean on this one. Ladies and gentlemen, I, myself, was a doubter upon the Colorado Avalanche last season. I said, no way they make it past second round. They haven't done it in the past few years. Guess what? They made it. They swept Edmonton, who I was surprised they made it that far in general as well. And then I said to myself, no way. They beat the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Stanley Cup final. Tampa Bay's been here before. They're aware of this. They got Andrei Vasilevsky, the best goaltender in the world. And then I was wrong again. So, to me, I'm not making the same mistake 3 times in a row. I'm taking Colorado Avalanche to stay the best, to be the best. They got a lot of guys coming back. They just signed one of the best hockey players in the world, Nathan MacKinnon. 8 years, $100.8 million for NHL. That is a lot of money. They also last year signed Cale Makar. He just won best of the best defenseman. He won the best defenseman award for the entire NHL. They signed him to a 6-year, $54 million contract. I think that's beyond impressive, and I think the Avalanche re-signed all the offensive weapons they need. Now, I do understand that their goaltending is potentially a problem, which I'm sure you're going to come at. So I do want to give you your chance to say what you have to say before I rebuttal.
Yep, you just mentioned it. Their lackluster goaltending. They've got Alexander Georgiev there now, along with Pavel Francois. Both of them, they're really shaky, obviously. I believe the New York Rangers didn't even want Georgiev on their team. They've got Shesterkin there, I understand. But I do believe that Colorado's goaltending will be their fault and failure this year.
And like Ethan said, they still have a lot of that firepower that they did last year. Arturi Lehkonen, Nathan MacKinnon, and Mikko Rantanen on that first line is going to stay the same. But they did lose Nazem Kadri as he went to Calgary with Jonathan Huberdeau, which was a big move in the offseason for the Panthers, Calgary, all that full circle. But they did lose their playoff Stanley Cup champion goaltender Darcy Kemper to the Washington Capitals in this offseason. But like Flip said, they got Georgiev, who was probably one of the better backups in the NHL last year behind Vezina-winning Igor Shesterkin. And they also added some depth with Evan Rodriguez from the Pittsburgh Penguins. He has a nice wrist shot. Valery Nichushkin and Newhook stay there. They got a new young guy, Ben Myers from the University of Minnesota. Only 5 games in his NHL career and 1 goal. So their depth is a little lackluster this year compared to last year. Makes me a little worried, but with that firepower in that front 6, I'm not too worried about their odds at winning again.
Gentlemen, it's simple. 82 games in a season, along with a preseason. I'm sure they'll be able to handle a depth situation for the Colorado Avalanche. Now I'll address the goaltending situation. You're right. They lost Darcy Kemper. He got hit in the eye during a game and then wanted to come back later in that game. He still played phenomenal. He helped win them the cup, but he's gone. He's with Washington, who desperately needed a starting goaltender because I don't know what was going on down there in Washington. But back to the point. Alexander Georgiev, without a question, was struggling heavily because he got beat out by Shesterkin. He now has an opportunity to prove himself at 26 years old. He's only 26. There's more than enough time for Georgiev to come out here and reprove himself. He has played 129 games. He's 58, 48, and 11. He allows just under 3 goals a game. I'm not too worried. Those stats are not bad. Are they the best? Not by a stretch. However, he does have a lot of talent to him. I think he's a really good glove side, and I do think that over time there's going to be development going, and Colorado's going to be able to work out some sort of system for the season. So I'm going to stick with the Colorado Avalanche. I'm not making the same mistake again. I truly do like the Lightning. I just think I think at this point they've dealt out too much, and their reign in the sun is just past because 4 years in a row, I don't see it. I don't buy it. I'm sticking with the new guys on the top of the mountain, the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, you guys do make some good points. Let's go to our rags to riches team, worst to first. Ethan, you go first. Who you got?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to say something that you're not surprised about, or what team I'm going to pick at least. It's the Detroit Red Wings. 2 years ago, if I would have said this, you would have thought, Ethan, did you fall and hit your head, man? And I'm going to say, probably yes. But after last season and how impressed I was last season, I'm going to take Detroit in this situation. You got Alex Nedeljkovic, who needs to have a rebound year. He was such an incredibly good goaltender out in Carolina, and then he had that season last season. He needs a rebound. And guess who else they have? Ville Husso out of St. Louis, who I really liked whenever they were playing the Colorado Avalanche in the playoffs last year. I think they're building up this team, able to get more depth. They got David Perron, a man who, speaking of which, did turn his career around when he head out to St. Louis, out and played with the Blues. So I like the Detroit Red Wings this year. I'm not saying they're going to win the Cup, but I think they have gone for the best from rags to riches in comparison of all the NHL teams.
Yeah, I do. I honestly really do like the Red Wings a lot. I have a team that's sort of in a similar spot than them. Last year's expansion team, the Seattle Kraken. They're sort of in a similar situation goaltender-wise. Nedeljkovic obviously was really good in Carolina the year before, struggled in Detroit. Same thing goes for Philip Grubauer, who struggled in Seattle last year and was really good with the Avalanche the year prior. They also added a lot of offensive firepower. They added Oliver Bjorkstrand from the Columbus Blue Jackets, along with Andrei Burakovsky, who's really good at picking up points, and he could be really good on their bottom six or top six this year, wherever they need them. They also have an injury guy coming back, Brandon Turbo Tanev. Penguins fans know him well, especially myself. I think he's really good. He could even jumpstart some of their offense. Fourth least in goals last year for the Kraken. I don't think they repeat that. Dee, what are your thoughts? Who do you got?
I'm taking a team who Chris Kunitz absolutely ended in 2017. They are absolutely irrelevant ever since the slap shot in the upper 90 to send the Penguins to the final, and that is the Ottawa Senators. I think they come different this year. And why do I say that? They have probably one of the youngest cores in the NHL. They have Brady Tkachuk. They have Josh Norris, Drake Batherson. Alex DeBrincat got sent here in the offseason from an absolute foolish trade from the Chicago Blackhawks. I don't know what is going through their minds this offseason. It's probably one of the worst offseasons by a franchise, especially being one of the original 6 franchises. This is an embarrassment to Chicago, what they did with DeBrincat. They sent him here for a first, a second, and a third to Ottawa. That guy is a generational talent. He's not worth any picks. You're not going to find another Alex DeBrincat in the NHL entry draft with these random NHL picks. It's just ridiculous. I thought so. But they have Tim Stützle, I didn't even mention yet. Absolute animal on the ice. Only 20 years old. Was one of the top rookies last year, if not the top. Claude Giroux from Florida, another veteran guy. Used to be a captain at the worst city on earth, Philadelphia. Led their team there. That was in Florida last year, got some playoff experience. That was an old team. I don't know what Florida's problem is in the playoffs, can never beat the Lightning, but that's beside the point. But this team is just like, they might not win it, but I see them having an early playoff berth spot, maybe as an 8 or 7 seed.
Yeah, you guys make a lot of good points. It was a lot of good sports talk today. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have on today's episode of Plead Your Case. Stay tuned for the weeks to come. We'll have a lot more good sports debate talk for you.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.